My name is Pelle Berkhout and I work at the Copernicus Institute of Utrecht University, where I do my PhD on innovation policy and specifically public procurement. Public procurement basically is the government buying stuff, and actually it buys a lot of stuff so that the country, the states can function, from trains to buildings, laptops for public officials, and it buys so much stuff that it's in the EU estimated to be between 10 and 15% of GDP of the economy. So you can imagine if you do improvements with that big part of GDP, for example in terms of sustainability or innovation, there's a lot to gain from it. And also when the government is a big client for certain companies, there's quite some potential to steer those companies towards, again, sustainability or innovation. We, with this research, specifically focused on how the buyers can prepare themselves better. And how they do so, how they prepare themselves by learning from suppliers. So in this context, these buyers are government agencies. That can be ministries, can be municipalities, can also be public utility companies, for example, focused on water or electricity. They buy a whole range of different things. But with this research, we don't necessarily focus on one product or one sector. We focus on generally how all these different government agencies interact with suppliers. This also means for the survey that we used, that we specifically targeted public buyers. And we asked them how they prepared themselves while making tenders, and how also they try to learn from suppliers. So ultimately the companies that have to make the product or service that these government agencies want. So pre-tender market engagement are actually interactions between public buyers and suppliers before a tender has been published. While preparing a tender, of course, public buyers, those people working in government, they can't know everything about all the different products they're buying. So to prepare themselves, they have to get information from suppliers, from the market. And that's basically what market engagement is. Setting up interactions, meetings, or even just online interactions with suppliers to learn from them. And of course, learning, if you learn something from them, you can adjust the tender and make it more fit for innovation. On the one hand, these public buyers need the information from those suppliers because they cannot know everything about the product or service they want. On the other hand, suppliers, they're also not only to provide information, but also with their own goal, right? Winning the tender in the end. So that makes market engagement quite an interesting concept, basically, in which public buyers want to learn and suppliers also want to give some information, but they also have their own stake, so to say. Market engagement can be a lot of things. It can be workshops, it can be sending out technical questionnaires, it can be one-on-one meetings. So there's actually, as you can imagine from these different formats, quite some different potential to learn from each other. It's very different if you're in a room, in a workshop, compared to filling in a technical questionnaire. But in research, this is all, market engagement is kind of taken as one thing. So with this research, we try to split out those different formats and see if they have different effects on learning by public buyers and ultimately innovation in public procurement. Engaging with suppliers to prepare a tender can be very interesting and useful, but public buyers should watch out that they don't engage with the usual suspects and also broaden their vision, basically. Overall, we found that market engagement actually is quite a delicate practice because it's not one thing. It exists out of multiple possible formats, and not every format has the same effect on learning by public buyers and ultimately innovation in public procurement. For example, questionnaires with technical questions have often a negative effect on learning, especially on learning about new suppliers and new solutions, because they limit the room for interaction. Whereas more dynamic formats, for example, workshops or meetings, they allow for much more learning and interaction, and therefore really help to create like a mutual understanding between buyers and suppliers about what it is that the buyer wants. Basically, yeah, learn what the other needs, and also learn more about the desired solution of a buyer. And for that type of learning, more dynamic market engagement formats are very useful. For example, one-on-one meetings with experts or workshops with multiple suppliers and other stakeholders in one room. Because as opposed to, for example, questionnaires, this really allows for continued interaction and learning from each other, so that you can really build this mutual understanding about what it is the public buyer wants with the procurement. It was also quite interesting to find that not only the format of market engagement matters, but also the parties at the table, basically, so the different actors. One finding is, for example, that the diversity of actors present during market engagement activities matters. So if you have a more diverse set of actors, you also have a more diverse set of knowledge, basically, in the room, which make the potential for learning from these different parties higher. We found for public buyers to learn about suppliers that they didn't know before yet, and their solutions that can be potentially innovative, is that it works well to publish some information about the tender beforehand, before you actually publish the real tender. And this increases exposure of the tender. For example, imagine you're a supplier and you're browsing the web to find potentially contracts for governments, and this government organization published a warning that they're going to tender quite a while before. You stumble upon it and you think, hey, this is interesting, I start preparing for it. I maybe even reach out to the public buyer to ask what they exactly want. And in this way they get in touch with each other, and they can learn from each other. Yeah, so for these public buyers it's very important, because market engagement is quite a delicate practice, to know beforehand what they want to learn from the market, and then also design their market engagement activities accordingly. For example, if you know you want to learn more about, if you want to encounter more suppliers that you don't know yet, it might work well to alert the market beforehand through, for example, a prior information notice, as we call it. So some information that the tender is gonna come up. Whereas if you want to create some mutual understanding with buyers and suppliers, it's good to organize more dynamic market engagement activities, such as workshops or meetings.
Okay.
So it's very important to keep the learning goal in mind when starting market engagement, and not to just do it because best practice documents say market engagement is good. The nuance is that not all market engagement activities are good, but specific market engagement activities relate to specific learning goals. And actually, if you want to learn more about that, the practical guidance document that belongs to this paper has more information about that, actually, which market engagement activities belong to which type of learning.